Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide Jason. I usually try and avoid real-world issues on this channel, instead focusing on mythology and fantasy and helping to escape from this mundane one. Yet sadly, there's a topic which has come up which regrettably I won't be able to avoid, and that is Christopher Nolan's Odyssey debacle. Yep, that title is the truth. It has been years since I watched anything come from Hollywood. No movies or TV shows. Not a bit. Instead, I have been watching exclusively Asian entertainment. Yep, mostly anime and manga. Throw in some manhwa too. There's some really good movies coming out of Thailand too. But nothing from the West. And with Nolan's, well, I can't call this thing the Odyssey. Not by a long shot. Let's be honest for a few minutes. This is a channel that focuses on mythology and fantasy, so you would think that someone like myself would be a given to see this movie. It sounds like it's right up my alley. I should be your hype man, an easy ticket sell. But no, I'm not interested at all. This thing is every reason why I quit watching Western entertainment. But I know someone is going to ask me about this, so let's get ahead and tackle this. Everything I hear about this movie only further and further pushes me away. Let's start with the source material. And I've heard this from multiple sources, and I wish I was wrong on this. The translation he is using is done by an Emily Wilson. So, what's the problem? Well, her translation is often labeled as one of the worst because whole sections are twisted to serve for feminist opinions. A story about a man struggling to return home is twisted to make it about women. I welcome you to look into this. Whole sections are rewritten to add her opinions and thoughts. Sometimes she downplays other parts, and this is just the beginning. In addition, Nolan has made remarks about the musical choices, and that there were no orchestras in ancient Greece. And this is moronic! Tell me, who are the muses? And Apollo is also a god of music. This is stupid! Yes, they had orchestras, and sometimes they'd play in their theaters. How do we know? We have the records of the plays and artworks depicting it. Seriously, when he says stuff like this, it really reinforces the idea that everything is done for clout. A bunch of Hollywood seals clapping their hands together. Before I talk about my next issue, I want to share a story from college. I got to be friends with several of the foreign exchange students. One day, I was having lunch with one of them named Tim, and then another named Mike saw me and came over. Mike and Tim had never met before, and they got to talking. Mike notices Tim's accent, and he asks if he's from England. Nope, he was from Africa. Both of them are. Everyone else at the table actually agreed that they had the same accent. The truth is, they grew up a little over 100 miles apart. So what is going on? Why didn't Mike realize that Tim was from the same country? Well, Tim is white. Yep, he was one of the few white guys from Africa. So let me ask you, what is going on? Well, Mike did a little bit of deductive reasoning. Tim had a different accent than everyone native to the area, so logically a foreigner with white skin, and a native English speaker, and an accent, and you can see why he would assume that Tim would be from England. Now, what's the point of this? Well, this movie has earned a lot of comments and criticism regarding its casting. With my little story, Mike was simply assuming based on the evidence he could gather. When it comes to an area, you would expect the people of a region to look a certain way. And this movie has a diverse cast. Yet the story deals with two nations, Greece and Troy. Now ancient Greece is where modern day Greece is, obviously. As to Troy, it is believed to have been in modern Turkey, and I'll touch on this in a bit. So the Greeks you would expect to be white, and we need to address a bit of ancient Greek belief on race. They didn't even see themselves as the same race as those from the north. They referred to them as blondes. Yeah, when we talk about the concept of race and ethnicity, they are viewed differently than they are today. And here's the issue. When people think Greeks, people are thinking white, a more olive complexion. And this is how they're described. Helen of Sparta or Troy is said to be fair-haired and white-armed. Let's be honest, she's described as being of Greek ethnicity and white. Well, they went with a dark-skinned actress. When it comes to storytelling, there is an aspect called visual storytelling, by using visual cues which tell us information. And a common one is using race. When you want to show a group of people being related, it is common to show them being similar. Now, Hollywood and its media are going around and resorting to name calling, saying that you are a racist, a bigot, a troll, if you don't like the casting. Mind you, I know the full legends of trolls, and I actually take that as a compliment. And I'll be honest, they call any criticism racism, bigotry, and so on. And I've got to the point where if you call me a racist, I just walk away. They aren't coming for an honest discussion. It's a coward's method. Someone who won't listen and thinks yelling over you is winning an argument or debate. Here's the thing, I'll need to do a full video on this someday, but diversity should reflect the tale you are sharing. If you watch anime, guess what ethnicity 99% of the characters are? Yeah, they are Japanese. Why? Well, most anime takes place in Japan, and most manhwa have Korean casts, and so on. This isn't wrong. This isn't racism, it's visual storytelling. The Odyssey is Greek. It was written by the Greek poet Homer, who adapted it from oral stories. The characters are Greek and Turkish. Your characters and casting should mirror this. Going back to my friends Tim and Mike, people have expectations. Yes, there are exceptions. Where my friend grew up was 99% black or so. Whites, Asians, and others are a heavy minority, and they tend to stick out. And that means, when you use someone who is an outlier in the population, they are going to have a major impact. They will attract attention. Now, we all know these characters' pedigrees very well. Much of the royalty of ancient Greece is well documented. So we know their heritage, and we can take a strong look at what they would look like. So, you could easily argue that these castings are both unbelievable and disrespectful to the culture and history of the regions. And there are other castings which are equally, well, stupid, to put it bluntly. There's a certain body type which you would expect among soldiers, and you all know which fool is the perfect example of not fitting this look. And I'll admit it, I love some of the horrible AI videos going around. Now, one argument that it's just mythology and doesn't matter. And I want to ask you if you've heard this before. Chuck Norris was so strong that when he did a push-up, he pushed the earth down. Oh, and he went skydiving once, but thought the world didn't need another Grand Canyon. And he's so fast that he can run around the world and punch himself in the back of the head. There's a whole book of these facts. Okay, let's be serious. Yes, these are jokes. But it's common in mythology. Do you remember when I spoke about Alexander the Great and his pet Al-Mirage? Yes, he's documented having a mythical rabbit as a pet. Yet Alexander the Great is a real man. There's plenty of historical records on his existence. What we have here is a Chuck Norris situation. Often, you will get larger-than-life tales tied to real people in history, and the Trojan War falls into this. Yeah, there really was a Trojan War. In fact, Troy's location was found by Henrik Schliemann at a location which is now called Hisarlik Kanakel. And how did they find this location? Well, using descriptions from the Iliad itself. So, what the Iliad really is an exaggeration of true events. Yeah, there probably weren't gods being involved, and figures like Achilles and Helen of Sparta weren't really demigods, but people who were real humans and drove events forward. So no, this isn't fiction, it's part of history. A part where we are relying on mythology to guide research. And this isn't the only part. I've mentioned this before, but the reason that Muslims don't eat pork isn't religious mumbo-jumbo, but based in biology and history. For much of history, they used goat's milk as a staple of their diet, and pork was rarer since they had to kill the pig. Yet bacteria found in the two didn't mix well and created digestive problems when mixed. And because of this, pork was forbidden to protect the overall health. And here's the point, mythology is often rooted in some real history and biology. And when it comes to the Trojan War, it's the same here. So no, it's not just stories, there are real lessons, history, and facts hidden in those stories. Just look at how widespread versions of Noah's Ark is. There's even an Aztec version of it. And then we got to multiple cities like Atlantis. Yeah, there's a lot to learn and more fact mythology to those who are willing to listen and learn. Even if there isn't history behind it, there is the culture. Yes, mythology is part of our culture. It is what unifies the people. It is a common core of beliefs and ideas. It is their identity. So to treat it so disrespectfully is disgusting. And that is what this movie looks like to me. Like I said, I have quit watching everything coming out of Hollywood. And by looking at the box offices from the past few years, I'm not alone. So what could they do to get people back? Well, the first thing is to respect the source material. This shouldn't be a surprise. Think about who is going to watch your movie or show. Well, if you're working on anything with an established fan base, they should be your initial audience. They are the ones who know the material by heart. They are going to be the loudest when you stray from the source material. So like it or not, this is going to be important. A franchise is only worth anything because there is an audience, and once you lose them, the franchise is dead. And this brings up the next point. Drop with the name calling and attacking the audience. Tell me, why should I watch your movie? Well, you got to make something I want to see. Something fun. Something to escape the stress of work and life. Make something to escape to another time and another place. In addition, I'm busy. I've got books to read, anime to watch, video games to play, and I've got videos to make for you. Then I got my family and friends to deal with. My free time is limited. So, if I'm going to go to the theater, that means that I need to get up, get in my car, and drive there. Then I got to spend my money on tickets, and usually get some snacks, which I probably have the same stuff at home. And then I watch the movie, sometimes in a crowded theater. And that means dealing with some jerk who can't put down their phone or shut up long enough to make it through a movie. So your movie needs to be something worth putting up with all of that. And then your movie is probably going to be on streaming in a few months. Yeah, that's a lot to overcome. Throw in having your actors antagonizing the audience, and you've got a bad situation. So the best thing to do is shut up. Remember, there is such a thing as bad publicity. And remember this, actors are the most non-essential thing possible. No one needs movies or shows. There's enough already existing that just watching reruns would supply your whole life. And this is something I remind myself with every video I make. You all are busy. You have only so much time each day available, and it is a gift from you to watch my videos. You could choose to hang out with your friends and family, play a video game, or watch something else. But you are gifting me your time. And that is the same thing with movies and shows. I need to earn your each and every view. And this is why I always end with thank you for watching, adventurers. I know this isn't something I like to cover, but in a case like this, it does. Please return next time, where we'll get back to fantasy and mythology. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.